Hi there and welcome back to the channel. Today we'll be taking another look at the lives of the Celtic Britons. I've been wanting to make a video for a little while about their social structure, at least what we do know about them, and any current theories, and the topic for discussion today would be the Celtic Britons version of marriage. But before we get into it, please don't forget to share, like and subscribe to the channel, and let's get into the video. Considering issues with the treatment of women and women's rights, life for women among the ancient Celts about 2,000 years ago was actually surprisingly desirable, especially considering the treatment of women in most ancient civilizations. The early Celts had a sophisticated, unified law system. Women could govern and take prominent roles in political, religious and artistic life, and even act as judges and lawgivers. They also held legal rights, especially in the area of marriage, and had rights of redress in case of sexual harassment. Polygamy was a very commonplace occurrence in the earliest war-torn times, in practicality to provide for the many widows who would otherwise have starved to death, along with their children. A warrior with many wives served the social needs of his tribes by taking responsibility for the families of his dead soldiers. Depending on the tribe though, there are 9 laws that govern the marital status of a couple. Many of them generally frowned on or not allowed these days for obvious reasons, but they were acceptable in the early Celtic civilizations, and also these 9 forms can be found in the 8 types of marriage in Hindu law as well. As in other civilizations, marriage was an economic union. They could choose when and whom to marry. They could also divorce, and they could claim damages if they were deserted, molested or maltreated. Today, 2 of the Celtic legal codes still survive. The Irish Fenacha, codified during the reign of the High King Leary during 428 to 36 AD, and the Welsh Cyfaith Hywel, codified in the 10th century by Hywel Dda. These types of marriages were: 1. In the primary form of marriage, both partners entered the union with equal financial resources and standing. 2. The woman contributes fewer finances. 3. The man contributes fewer finances. 4. Cohabitation with a woman at her house with her relatives. 5. Voluntary elopement without the consent of the woman's family. 6. Involuntary abduction without the family's consent. 7. Secret rendezvous and marriage. 8. Marriage due to being raped. 9. Marriage of 2 insane people. In Celtic law, there were instances of wives paralleling the first 3 types of marriage, the main difference being the attendant financial obligations. They could also enter what was known as a temporary marriage or probationary period, similar to what we now know as an engagement today. But it wasn't practiced everywhere, and records we do have happened much later, and included the tradition of tying the 2 people's hands together with cloth to bind them. There wasn't a dowry that was required for marriage, although there was a bride price, which the woman could keep in certain cases of divorce. Grounds for divorce that included the return of the bride price were if the husband 1. Left her for another woman, 2. Failed to support her, 3. Told lies or seduced her into marriage by trickery or sorcery, 4. Struck his wife, causing blemishes and bruises, 5. Told tales about their sex life, 6. Was impotent or sterile or obese enough to prevent sex, 7. Left her bed to exclusively practice homosexuality. Some of these are actually still cases for annulment in modern UK law as well. I do quickly want to go over number 8's cause of marriage, a horrific crime in itself, and while morally wrong to make her marry her attacker, it did serve a purpose that aided her in that time period. In Celtic law, cases of rape and sexual harassment involve punishments to help the victim financially while permitting her rapist to remain free. This might have provided less incentive for the man to lie, but failure to pay could also lead to full castration. The woman too had an incentive for honesty. She had to be certain of the identity of the man who she was accusing of rape. If she made an allegation that later proved to be false, she would have no help raising the offspring of such union, nor could she charge a second man with the same crime. Celtic law didn't demand written contracts for relationships. However, if a woman was kissed or interfered with bodily against her will, The offender had to make compensation. Verbal abuse also fetched fines valued at the person's honour price. Rape, as defined among the Celts, include forcible violent rape, the seduction of someone asleep, mentally deranged or intoxicated. Both were regarded as equally serious. For the Celts though, rape doesn't seem to have been so much as a shameful but more like a crime that must be avenged, and often by the woman herself. She had the freedom to do this and could choose not to marry him or even end his life if she chose to. The laws governing marriage were set up to ensure children were protected since illegitimacy did not exist in their society, make clear the rights of the husband and wife, and protect the property rights of both parties. While not morally acceptable on all grounds in today's day and age, they were living in a time with incredibly low life expectancies, so this may have played a part in these decisions to ensure the survival of all. It's also interesting to note that if two people of unequal rank wanted to marry, the person of lower rank was responsible for the financial burden. We can assume this was meant to keep the Celtic nobility from marrying down to a lower rank. Second wives and concubines were also common, especially before the Roman invasion of their native lands. Multiple husbands were less common, but not unheard of. There were even laws that stated a first wife could legally murder the second wife within the first 3 days of marriage. She would have still had to have paid a fine, but other than that she was within her rights. There are some that say this may be one of the many origins of the modern day honeymoon, the husband and second wife going away for the first few days of their marriage to avoid her being killed. Women were often married into different tribes to cement alliances and create lasting bonds between them as well. A lot of these elements changed in a few ways with the introduction of the church. Marriage did become more controlling in favour of the man, although a lot of the things we spoke about did still hold true until the near end of the Celtic Briton period. Even after the Romans had left, but by this point there had been a lot of intermarriage between the two sides. The Celts had started using Latin words, and within a few generations the Celtic and Roman ways of life became mixed. The Celts and Romans married each other, Roman soldiers retired from the army and became farmers and shopkeepers. The sons and grandsons of those who fought against the Romans even joined the Roman army. Following the Romans leaving the Isles, they were then invaded by the Anglo-Saxons, who had their own impact on the people living there, and again, these were also heavily in favour of the male party. The laws of Roman and Anglo-Saxon marriage are two very different future videos, so I'll leave that there. There is still much that we do not know, or may not ever know, on the subject. Much of what we do come from remnants that were left over in the Irish and Welsh societies. Thank you for reaching the end of the video, and leave me a comment down below if you liked it or if you have anything to add. I'd love to do more of these types of videos, especially as I expand into other areas of the world, since that is still my goal, even if I got a little sidetracked. I would love to hear more about which country you would like to be covered historically. Sorry for any background noise during the recording of this video. My dog and my ferrets were quite noisy during the recording, so I tried my best to keep it to a minimum. That's all for now guys, take care and bye.